Hello, my loves. I have had a really interesting 2 weeks. The past couple weeks, I feel like a lot of loose ends have been tying up and ones that I didn't even know existed. And these small loose ends tying up are really making way for some really big space. And so I'm super excited about January and I guess the new year already. Um, and there have been a few things which have felt very small to do, but for me at least, were a very scary jump or change. And I want to share that with you in case it helps you in any way too. One that I had was I'd had this dynamic with a guy in the gym where we both decided we're both attracted to each other, um, but we decided that it didn't make sense to date because he wanted something casual, and that's definitely not what I'm looking for. And we continued to see each other in the gym and had, for at least on my part, it was a little bit confusing because there was still like a lot of, I guess it felt to me in hindsight a bit like unfinished business between us. We were still friends, we still wanted to chat. Like it felt weird. It felt weirder to kind of go cut each other off and go, let's not talk, because obviously we're in the same place and we got on. But at the same time, when we did chat, there was kind of like this underlying, and I guess it was the underlying sexual tension between us that, at least on my part, didn't feel addressed. Even though I knew I didn't want anything further, it still felt open-ended, I think. And I'm starting to really realize the importance of closing these loops. And at the time, I thought, as in at the time, so we met about 6 months ago and been seeing each other at the gym for about 6 months. So during that period, barring the past couple weeks where I've been finding more out about myself, I guess, um, I thought that I dealt with it because I was like, I know that I don't want any hookups. I definitely don't want anything casual, even because he was saying, it wouldn't just be one night, like we'd still chat and be friends. And I wasn't looking for a friends with benefits or anything else. I'm looking for commitment. And then afterwards, let's look at being physical. But I knew I didn't want that. And so I thought I was really clear, he knew, and he wasn't pushy, he wasn't forcing anything. He asked a few times, like, has anything changed? But ultimately I knew what I wanted and I was clear with that. And so I thought I did everything right. And I just thought it was that I guess unfinished feeling may have just been, I'm attracted to him and I haven't had that with anyone really before. And so I thought it was just something new to me that I needed to get used to. But we ran into each other again like a week or two ago, and I so after deciding, okay, I definitely don't want anything with you. I didn't realize, but I had a dynamic of I can't open myself up. I can't be fun and flirty and free, like a bit like how I usually am with, say, a girlfriend, because I don't want to give you mixed messages. But that meant that I was holding myself off. And I didn't realize that I was doing this in a lot of other areas of my life too. This sense of, hang on, I've said I don't want anything, and so I don't want you to get confused. And at this point, I found myself going, well, I have to track back. I've said I don't want anything. Being flirty is often misconstrued, or I mean, it wasn't even overtly friendly. I just mean that light, playful, fun energy that a lot of people are attracted to. But that can mean that some people are confused by it and see it as an open invitation, because you do have open energy when you have that energy. And I understand now what was happening is I didn't know how to protect myself at a deeper level. And so I kind of went, uh-oh, if I want to uphold this, if I want to stop sending messy energy, messy mixed messages to him, I want to be fair to him. So now I have to cut off that part of myself so that I can see and interact with him. Big mistake. And I think people pleasers do this a lot. I think there's this sense of, there's something that I don't want, and now I need to hive off the part that has fun or that is free or basically that is me. And actually sometimes that might mean you're cutting off anger, which is so important for boundaries. And I've realized now that instead, when we hit that wall of, okay, I've done a big step and said, I don't want this, I've stood my ground, because that's a big step in and of itself. And then when you find yourself realizing there's something that's still not adding up, there's something that's still not right, instead of going backwards, instead of going, okay, well, now I need to retract, we now need to know how you can move forward. So this is a sense of, I've done well in saying, no, I don't want this with you. And I also want to feel fun and flirty. And instead of going, oh, hang on, these clash, I can't not want something with you and be fun and flirty, we need to find a way to uphold both. So you get to have both. And again, I think this is a real problem with people pleasers, because we think that if we put one thing out, that means that we have to completely hide another part. But we get to have both. We get to feel free and fun and have all of our desires, and we get to feel protected in the way that we want to. And if we keep redacting ourselves, if we keep going, say in my example, I don't want to meet up with you in private, I don't want to sleep with you, I don't want to date because it could get messy, and that's just not what I want. And I get to have this fun, free, easygoing vibe that we had, like we did before, before we'd really said whether we were attracted to each other or not. Basically wanted to keep that fun, flirty, free vibe and not have to fear that I was giving mixed messages. I wanted to stand in both, and we get to have both. So when you hit that point, you make the big step of going, actually, no, I've got standards for myself. I don't want to have something casual. I don't want to just date for the sake of it. I don't want to have sex just for the sake of it. You get to have that boundary. That is now, you've raised your foundation. You've raised your floor. And now that you've raised, okay, so you were here. Now that we've raised the floor, it doesn't mean that this stays the same. We now get to go above. With our raised floor, we get to have higher ceilings, basically. So we get to have more of our desires. This is the importance of these boundaries, because what people pleasers do is we might cut off more and more, like, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. We never allow ourselves to raise our desires or have whatever we want. And that means that we have no energy. We start to feel really crunched and oppressed and trapped, and then we have no space for relationships of any kind. I don't just mean romantic, I also mean friendships. We can't receive anything, we can't enjoy life, we feel everything is a burden, we get completely rolled over in our jobs, we don't have any creative outlets, we don't have any space for ourselves, we don't even know who we are half the time because we've had to shove ourselves down so much. And I think the reason why we get stuck here, at least in my case, is because from that point there takes a certain vulnerability. There's a sense of, this person has come to me and said, hey, I don't know, in this scenario, I'm so attracted to you, I want to sleep with you. I've gone, no thank you, that's not what I'm looking for. And now that I feel like I've set the bar, I've put something out, I've rejected him, I now feel a little bit guilty, and I feel like I can't have anything else. And so we get stuck in this point. But in reality, this other person isn't thinking that whatsoever. They've got their own lives, they've got other people they can approach, they have other ways of feeling good, not just through sex. And so we need to stop thinking that we are their only source of goodness, their only hope almost. So instead of getting stuck in this point, because what I would do is I would get here, I'd kind of say, no, I don't want this, and then I'd get really stuck, and then I'd feel guilty, and because I couldn't express myself, I would start to redact, and then I would withdraw, I would isolate, and then I end up not learning anything with anyone, not having any good relationships with anyone, not really understanding myself, because you need to be out there in order to grow. You need to have relationships in order to grow. And so when you hit that stuck point, when you start to lose energy, you feel like things are hard and you're a bit like, I don't know what's going on, I want something but like nothing feels right, nothing's doing the job, it's basically that you have another desire, you have something that you want to say, but you don't feel like you can ask for more. You don't feel like you can either put in another boundary or request that you still interact in the same way. So I hit this point with my friend from the gym, and we were messaging one time, which usually we didn't really do, but messaging one time after seeing each other at the gym recently. And it turned a little bit flirty. And usually what I would do in my old way, anything remotely flirty, I would avoid. I kind of feel a bit like, oh shit, it's getting towards that direction. I really want to be clear that I don't want anything like that. And it was basically at the cost of I'm still single and I get to flirt and feel free and fun and sexy even if I don't want something with this person. So I was hiving off all the good things in order to maintain this friendship where it's not even a deep friendship. It's just kind of like a hey, how are you? So I was hiving off a big part of myself for something that wasn't really worth it. And this time I went, okay, you know what? He's just said something flirty to me. Right now, I ask myself, minus all of the stories, all of the I have to do this and I'm gonna get shamed if I do that, what do I feel like doing? And I was like, you know what? I actually want to send a flirty message back. And I asked myself, well, has anything changed for me? Like, do I actually, you know, has anything changed? Like, do I feel stronger about this person? Blah, blah, blah. And the answer was no. But and at that point, I usually go, oh, well, then I can't confuse anything. I can't confuse matters or him. So I just need to not say or do what I wanted to do, i.e., text back something flirty, and I'll just ignore or change the conversation or something like that. This time I went, I'm feeling that, and I've got the strength knowing that if he asked again, do you want to hang out? I know that I'd say no, but I was like, okay, well, there's obviously something I need to learn here. Because that was the thing, right? I kept on getting dragged back to him, even though I knew I didn't want anything. So I was like, why does he feel like I'm finished business? So I messaged back, and one or two messages in, he was kind of like, oh, have you changed your mind? Does that mean that you've changed your mind about seeing each other? And I was like, no, I'm still not interested in that. And he said, and voila, it was quite a, well, there you go. And to me, I read that as, it felt like, well, why are we even talking? You know, what's the point kind of thing? Like, why did you flirt with me if nothing's changed? It was just kind of quite a blunt, and there you have it kind of feeling. And again, at that point, I'd feel really embarrassed. I feel very confused, a bit overwhelmed, and I kind of go, oh shit, yeah, he's right. Like, nothing's changed for me, and I've just put us in this position, and now I've made myself feel awkward. That is the point where usually I step back. That is the point where I usually go, oh shit, yeah, I've done something wrong. Now I need to cover it up, like, in any way, just kind of avoid, either act like that's never what I meant, or just basically stop being vulnerable, stop being open and free and fun. That openness I had when I was feeling flirty, I now have to close off. I now have to change tact. I now have to hide. And at that point, I went, no, I want to stay open. Because that place of openness is where my freedom, my creativity, my sexiness lives. And I want to keep that now. I want to learn how to operate in this world, have that dynamic and be able to protect it. So not just have that dynamic and put myself at risk, but there are certainly people out there who do feel this, and their boundaries are honored and protected. And honestly, most people do protect boundaries. I think that's a big thing. People pleasers think that a lot of people are attacking them, and that's usually, very, very usually, speaking in a very average sense, that's usually not the case. It's our perception. Of course, there are certain people, certain scenarios where that's not the case, but usually we're better identifying those. It's these in-between states where a lot of people pleasers, a lot more of the subtle scenarios where people pleasers are a bit more confused. So yes, I got to this point and I was like, okay, well, if I stay open, if I stay in that same place where I felt free and sexy and fun, And this is the same place in my body. This isn't the place where it doesn't mean that I have to say something fun or flirty. It just means that I'm resting in that open vulnerability, that openness to life, that joy and the enjoyment. And I was like, okay, well, if I stay in this place in my body, what is it that I actually want to say? What is it that I'm actually feeling? Because it's us blocking this reality, what we actually want to say, that makes us feel stuck. It makes us feel stuck because we go, oh shit, I can't say what I really want to say. And I also don't want to say what he wants me to say. So now I'm stuck. And it turns out what I wanted to say, or actually, I didn't even know, I think this is the other thing, right? I didn't even know where I wanted it to go. I didn't know where this conversation was taking me. Because in my logical head, I was thinking, well, this doesn't make sense to me. Why am I wanting to still chat to him when we don't have like any deep kind of relationship, even friendship? And I know I don't want anything with him. Why am I not able to just go, okay, that's done, and move on like I am with everyone else? What is it? Why am I still drawn to something that just doesn't make sense to me? So I didn't know, I couldn't even steer the conversation. It's not like I wanted to get him to say, oh, ask me out or anything like that. I didn't know where this was going. And so again, I was in that open and vulnerable space, and I asked myself, okay, well, what do I really feel? What am I confused about? Or why do I keep closing off at this point? What do I really want to say? And it's because it hit a point where it took a level of vulnerability that I'd never really gone there with anyone. It was always that level of vulnerability where suddenly I would shut down and I go, okay, well, it's not worth going any further because I'm just going to get hurt. But here I went, okay, what do I want to say? And the answer was, ultimately, I don't know where this is going, but I think I ended up saying something along the lines, oh, that was it. My first little step towards being vulnerable was, oh, do you not want to chat then? Because he was going, oh, well, there you have it. Like, you don't want any, we're at checkmate again of what we want. And usually I kind of go, I'd maybe make a funny comment and kind of feel a bit like, oh, yeah, just not quite comfortable, but make a funny comment, keep it light and fun because we don't owe each other anything. We don't know each other very well. So who am I to make it more vulnerable, basically? It was like a guy that I'd chatted to a few times in the gym. Like, why am I trying to make it deep by going vulnerable? But this time I was like, you know what? It's been 6 months of feeling unfinished. I'm going into this wherever it takes me. And we had a couple of messages where he was like, I don't understand what you mean. And again, at that point, oh my God, I so wanted to jump back and go, hey, you know what? Forget about it. Like, you don't know what I mean. And I don't really want to be more vulnerable. So I could have easily backtracked. And it was another opportunity. It was like a second chance of like the universe going, are you going to take this committed step? Basically another time to like double down. And I was like, you know what, Talia, stay vulnerable. Because he put a laughing face as well because he didn't understand. Usually people do that because they feel uncomfortable that they don't understand you. But as the receiver, it can feel like, especially if you're the one taking it into a vulnerable place for the first time and you know you don't want the same things, like he wants something way more casual and you don't. Even though I don't want something deeper with him, I still generally want something deeper. So I've always had this thing of like, I don't want to force him into, you know, like I don't want it to seem like I'm manipulating him into caring for me, basically. But that's not what was happening. I just basically wanted to share how I was feeling, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm doubling down. I'm doing this. And what did I say? I said, when you sent that message, it felt like we could only talk if it ends up with a hookup, basically. That's basically what I meant by, do you want to chat? But would you prefer not to chat? But the would you prefer not to chat, can you see how that is not vulnerable at all? That's kind of, obviously I've had a conversation in my head, especially after he put et voila, like, and there you go. And then all of a sudden I'm going, do you prefer not to chat? Like, no wonder he got confused, because I've basically had a whole conversation in my head, tried to package it up, tried to save face, not be vulnerable, tried to keep direction in the conversation, keep it short, not feel like I'm a burden. And so I've just gone, okay, well, answer this question and I'll be out of your hair, kind of thing. So obviously he got confused. I'm really glad that he did, because it forced me to get just vulnerable and just say how I felt, not control the direction of the conversation. And yeah, I said basically how I felt when I received that message. And that's not something I'm used to doing whatsoever. And it's such a vulnerable place, because you're obviously not saying, I want anything from you, or I want it to go anywhere. You're literally just going, you sent that message and all of a sudden I felt stuck. Something came up in my body and now I don't know where, I can't manage it on my own. I don't know where to take it. And at that point we have to learn to just release it and let the other person in our dynamics interact, and then we figure it out as we go along. As people pleasers, we don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to be polished and presented by the time we get there. And I sent this thinking, oh my God, he's gonna think I'm completely loony, that again, I'm putting a whole load of like emotions on him and that I can't handle myself, and it's embarrassing because he just about wants something casual, and like, yeah, I don't want to be seen as all emotional. And he came back and was like, don't be silly, like, of course I'd still like to chat, we get on, don't we? And that just felt like such a validative response. I mean, by sending that message myself, I had to own whatever was gonna come back. I had to own, even if he kind of came at me with a, why the hell are you taking it that route? Like, by the time you send that message, you've got to own both directions it can take, which is the power of sending or sharing your feelings like that. But it would really showed me that the average person, they do care, especially men. They're naturally a little bit less vulnerable. So it's harder for a woman, especially a lot of women right now are very stuck in their masculine, in their achiever mindset, and they don't know how to be vulnerable. And so it's really hard to take the first step. Often women want men to be vulnerable first, that it gives them permission to be, but it's just more in a woman's nature to be vulnerable first. So it is a big step, and I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna get walked all over. But it really showed me that that's not the case. And in men as well, like, there's a natural tendency when a woman is vulnerable, because I was saying that just because something came up in me, and it was a case of either I ignore this and I keep hitting this stuck place all the time, or I say what I'm feeling and I just see where it goes. I wasn't saying that to manipulate him. I wasn't going, I feel like you're ignoring me, or I feel like we could be great together. It's not like one of those statements. It was literally this is a real vulnerable share for me right now. I don't know how you're gonna act to me. I don't know if I'm gonna get bulldozed, but I just need to say it. When you're in that space, men love to protect that. That is surrender, that is vulnerability. Men love that, and that's actually really magnetic. So that's great if you can get to that place. Super useful for dating in terms of protecting yourself, but super useful as well in being magnetic. Honestly, it's a win-win. And it works for men as well in terms of women really appreciate this vulnerability. But it might just be that it comes out differently for you. But you basically just want to still speak from this open place, not trying to control the future of your friendship or relationship. Because if you're trying to control even the direction of the conversation, you are trying to protect a part of yourself. And that means you're never going to get the things that you want, because by protecting and hiving off a part of yourself that you think is going to get hurt, you are also cutting off the flip side of the coin, the positive side of those things. So it can be really hard, but it's really important to communicate, especially when you're in those moments where you feel stuck. That is a chance, that is the universe asking you to take a different road, take a different approach, try something new. And usually that means going deeper into your body. I'm really glad that we had that conversation over text, and I don't think I would have been able to have it in person, because I needed the time to kind of receive the message, go into my body, ask myself what was really happening here, what did I really want to say, what am I really feeling, and then reply and kind of own my vulnerability that way. I think if it happened in real time and I hadn't done that before, because it was quite a deep thing for me, you know, it was basically me lowering the level of vulnerability with a guy who, like, there was no reason to really. But I did it for me. I did it because I kept getting to that same point of stuckness. It's not like I never felt that dynamic before, but I've done a lot of healing this year and I still had that dynamic with him. So by the time that it got to a case where I was like, I've definitely owned the fact that I don't want anything further, and I'm still feeling this stuck feeling with him when I see him, there's another option here that I'm not seeing, and that's what being stuck basically is. There's an option that you need to take that you are avoiding, pretty much, and you're avoiding it because it takes some vulnerability. I hope this helped, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much, my loves. Check out my available courses in the description box below, and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much, my loves. I will see you in the next one.